Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, this is Joe and Jay Outspoken. You can find us and all of our social media stuff by going to Linktree/Joe and Jay Outspoken. Today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about
evangelists. We're going to talk about megachurches.
Megachurches. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and what the heck those are and what's going on. So
we're going to take it back. We're going to go back old school, back to the old evangelists, some of them back in the 80s, you know, growing up. I think you and I probably seen them on TV, switching the channel, because remember, our parents' remote control, so we had to go up there and change the channel for them. So I remember seeing some of these. So we're going to talk about some of them. Where are they at today? And really, what are they about? You know, I've never been to a megachurch. I know I've seen. I think one of the most impactful one was when I every time I drive down by San Diego is that the Crystal Cathedral. I don't know if you remember that
Cathedral,
one. Yeah, big old glass. Yeah. So I'm always like, man, is that where Jesus lived? That Jesus up there? You know, I don't know. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good topic.
Well, we're gonna find out about that and more. So here we go.
Stay tuned.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Here we go on evangelism and megachurches. It's kind of interesting. That's like up to 10,000 people in a megachurch. 10,000 people. That's a lot of. I mean, we go to the same church whenever we can, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like, I mean, ours is obviously a really small church,
but that's good. I like the homeliness of it. You know.
Oh, I do too, man. I can't stand the big churches.
I don't want to get lost in the crowd. You know, like you know what I mean, like be part of something. You know, like all these churches, they're huge, right? And you know the pastor or whoever, but they don't know you, not on a personal level. You know, like I know at least in our church when I walk in there, I could miss two Sundays in a row, right, because of work. But then when I come back, it's like the pastor, you know, they're like, "Hey Joe, how you doing?" Like they know me, like
right.
You know, it's just so I don't know. I like that personal connection because it's more. It speaks more of to what I think. As far as us as Christians, what being in a church really means, I think it has more. It favors us more than in some of these mega churches. Like you think Kenneth Copeland will ever know who we are? Like, you know, unless we give them money, then they would probably, you know, right? But you know, clearly our tithings are not even remotely close to what they're asking, right? So we don't get that golden brick in the foyer of their mega church, unfortunately, but you know, at least they know our name. But yeah, it's crazy. I don't do you remember back in our days? Well, Tammy Faye Baker. Well, I can't remember her husband to say
Tammy and Jim Baker.
There, bro. She used to wear so much makeup, and like when she cried, which was almost every other sentence.
Every time, because you remember the show?
Yeah.
They were on the PTL club.
The PTL, yeah. Praise the Lord club.
Praise the Lord. Yeah, it's so funny. I actually worked for a company at the time, and she came into our place of business. And I mean, I'm trying to think how old we were at the time.
30s?
Had to be. I was in 20s.
Oh, wow.
It was back then. Yeah.
I can't remember that far back.
Yeah, me either, hardly. Yeah, it was a long time ago. She was really super nice. She was a really nice lady, but you recognized her like off the bat because she had that typical makeup. So it wasn't so much just her face makeup, but
body makeup?
her eyelashes. What?
Oh,
she had
God,
body makeup. Yeah, like the Lee press on, whatever it was, eyelashes. And I mean, they were just like fingers because they were so thick. But
she's waving by to you.
She's like waving by to you.
Thank you for your service. That's awesome.
It's like the what do they call them now? The hooker lashes or whatever.
Oh my God. I think you're so fun. But
yeah, I have to admit though, I mean, I met her and talked to her for a minute. And I didn't say anything
starstruck
about.
Well, you're always starstruck.
No, not at all.
Well, but you're always like when you see someone that you see on TV, you're like, oh my God, you know what I mean? What do you like? It's pretty cool. Like I wish when what's his name, Robert Downey Jr. was doing cocaine and stuff down in Indio. I wish I would have bumped into him. I'd have been like, what's up, man? You know what I mean? Like. We don't care about the circumstance. We just want to see, you know, you're famous and stuff. But that's another one. Benny Hinn. Remember Benny Hinn? Is it Benny Hinn? Yeah,
Benny
Benny Hinn.
Hinn.
Remember him?
Yeah.
That was
You
another
are
one.
healed.
Yeah. But and then there was one more. It was an evangelist, and this is the reason that I talked about Robert Downey Jr. and being so famous. Do you remember? This happened in our hood, in our old town too. Do you remember that evangelist Jimmy Swaggart?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember what happened to him in Indio, California?
Oh yeah, he got caught
with a prostitute.
Yeah.
I'm just giving her a ride. I'm getting the devil out of her.
Yeah, he did give her a ride.
Oh man. And she sucked the evil out of Jimmy Swaggart, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing, man. Here's the problem with these mega churches. I think, and I feel, now, all of them, I don't know. To me, and here's the thing. A lot of people, they think that by donating, by giving money, that everything's gone and whisked away. You are sinless and you will continue and you have more blessings. But, there is part where it says that if you give generously, then God will reward you generously, right? But I think some of these mega churches do take advantage of these things, and they always find Bible quotes to help them in their deception of people, of religion, and I think it's ridiculous. Like, for example, you ever heard of the evangelist called Kenneth Copeland?
Yes.
Okay.
The richest guy.
Yeah. Well, when you say that, guess what's his net worth? Estimated net worth, because of course, churches don't get, churches don't pay taxes, right? So
right. So yeah, they're 501c3 companies, or organizations.
LMNPQRS, yes. And so his estimated.
We just got out of Pride Month, so
yeah.
Hey guys, there you go.
So his net worth is over $300 million. $300 million, Jay.
I didn't know it was that much.
Yeah. I forget his name. Perry. That the actor
Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry. Well, Tyler Perry had a jet he was getting rid of. Guess who bought it? Copeland, because he said God sends him places to go preach, and needs a Lear jet. He can't travel coach. He needs a Lear jet, right? So, and I'm like, wow, bro. And then you write those off in the church expenses. It's like, hey, we need it, along with all my Tahoes.
He's going to take it off on the taxes he doesn't pay.
Yeah. So, and
well. Yeah, and I'm always curious about this with those folks. A church, right, and your elders in the church typically is what you have. They can decide how much the pastor makes, right? So they decide a salary for the pastor. And most churches, the average is anywhere from about $45,000 a year to about $120,000 a year. That's a big swing, right? But there's also a big difference in states. If you're living in Kentucky versus you're living in New York City, you're going to need the pastor's going to need to make more money just to live the exact same lifestyle as the guy in Kentucky. Right. So, and the church elders decide that based on, and if they want to give the, pastor more money, and that's up to them, and no matter what, the amount of money that comes into the church is divvied up for obviously stuff for the church. And then most churches, like our church, I know in particular, we sent our youth group here recently over to another state, to do some evangelism. We just sent our pastor, associate pastor, one of our elders, their wives, down to South America to do some stuff down there. So those church funds can be used for a multitude of things,
right?
And then helping the community. I know, again, our church in particular, I know we are very focused on helping the immediate community that we're in. We do all the stuff out of state and out of country. We try to do a lot of stuff locally. What I'm curious about, what was his name? Kenneth Copeland. Do they have it on the record? So as far as him pay, because him personally, he's got to pay taxes, right?
Yes.
The church doesn't.
The church doesn't, but he does.
Him personally, does he? It shows he's only making like $120,000 a year or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the church, quote unquote, pays for everything else, like the Lear jet and all that.
Everything comes from
Yeah. So then that's shiesty, I mean, on the back.
There's workaround. There's work. I mean, these guys have been doing this for years, right? And so but this is what I understand. You shouldn't be a rich man or become a millionaire by preaching the word of God. That's not the intent, right? And you should just now. Am I against living comfortably for because there is study behind preaching, right? You have
yeah.
have to go in there. You have to do the work. You have to find it. I mean, there's a lot to it. Theology is not simple. It's not easy, no matter what the religion, right? So you
Right.
have to put work into it. So you should get paid for the work and the effort that you put into it. I'm all for that.
Absolutely.
But to become a millionaire, I mean, how is that even possible? You
Well,
know,
it's
I don't understand that.
I don't either. It's a little bit of the same thing as the president of the United States, right? What is their salary? 300.
Yeah, it's gotten up, but I think it was like 250, 260 and stuff like that a year. Yeah.
I almost want to say it's like right at the 300,000 mark.
Okay.
Me personally, I do not have a problem with the president making $300,000 a year.
No.
There's
sleepless nights and whatnot.
Yeah, the billions we spend on nonsense overseas and everything, and then you take Congress people, the making in the $100,000 range and this and that. Again, I don't have a problem with that. The problem is that, and this gets pitched around in media and stuff like that. Why is it that people that are making $100,000 to $300,000 a year have $60 million homes? That does not compute, right? You can't own that much in stuff with the little salary you have without doing stuff on the side.
Yeah.
And then how do you do so much of that stuff on the side? Well, it's from insider information and everything. So rewind it back to the whole church deal. How do these people like the Kenneth Copelands of the world, how do they have so much stuff, when they should really be making, and just I 100% agree with you, man. Give them a nice paycheck or whatever, but they shouldn't be, they shouldn't be millionaires. They shouldn't be living in 90210 land or Martha's Vineyard, on a church salary.
Own an island or have a 200 acres.
A Learjet.
Have a Learjet. Wow. But here's the thing: if you go into some of these, because I did a little bit of research, not too much because it irritates me. People taking advantage of. So some of these they'll some write books, inspirational books, which is basically they'll take parts of the Bible, put it in a book, and then talk about that section. Basically, they're just doing the same thing I do on TV every week. They just put it in a book. People are buying it, right? They calling it inspirational. They're like, oh my God. Some will add a little calendar to it, and it's like 365-day inspirational book. I mean, we could all do that. I can do that about guns for 365 days, right? So, but they make
There's
money.
There's enough models you could have.
Absolutely. Days of models, right?
Hey, anybody out there, don't take that idea. We're
gonna do it first.
Joe and Jay's 365
days of guns. But I get that, but are you really helping anyone? Are you really doing what the intent behind being a pastor and evangelist doing? Those times of dancing at the top up there with snakes in your hands and doing all those times are gone. Right? Those we don't try to do that. Maybe down south a little bit, folks. I don't know if y'all still do that. Call us and let us know. But the thing is, we don't do that anymore. And the problem that I have with some of these bishops or whatever they call themselves nowadays is that anyway, you look into each one of these guys, they all have a foundation, right? They have the Jimmy Swaggart Foundation or the Benny Hinn Foundation or the Kenneth Copeland Foundation. So guess what? Because it's a foundation, they fall on different tax brackets. Money is also sent there. Correct?
Right.
And then on top of that, what else happens? They need to have a chairperson. Well, that chairperson needs to get paid, right? Because they're making decisions. So they're getting paid from foundations. They're getting paid from the church. They're getting paid from, you know what? The book and the church will open up their own publishing company just because they have to. Yeah. And all of a sudden now the guy's getting paid out of the publishing company because he's writing books. I mean, they find loophole upon loophole upon loophole, and they're just all they're doing is getting rich, and they're not fixing anything. They're absolutely the last thing that the Bible talks about that they're not going to heaven. I don't know if they know this, but they're clearly they're in love with earthly things and they're stuck on I'm gonna tell you the right thing, man. They're gonna be outside the pearly gates like you and I are gonna be. That's all I know. And you know why we'll be outside the pearly gates, right? Don't make me share them memes. I know you know.
Oh man. Yeah, we're waiting we're pulling the little number and it's like on 5 million already or something like that before we calling 4,370,000.
But yeah, there's so many of these evangelists, bro. I don't know what I don't know. What's your feel on these things? Like, I know that as kids, my mom probably sat there and watched a little bit of it, and we sat there and listened, or it was running in the background, whatever. But I know I remember Tammy Baker,
Oh yeah.
Tammy Faye Baker. I remember her, and Jim Baker. I remember them. Benny Hinn. I remember him. And when they started the whole PTL thing, there was a bunch of evangelists that came out of that thing. A lot of them.
Right. Well, I think what probably happened was, people that were using it as a stepping stone to get into, I don't know if you want to call it that, this line of work or whatever, but they saw that there is profitability in it. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I mean, I hate to go back to the governmental thing, but you have people that get into, say, Congress for what? They get into it because they care about the country or their constituents, and they're going to do something good for them. There's other people that see, wow, I can make a lot of money and I don't have to do a whole lot except, go to these meetings and get fed. And if somebody, whatever, I mean, it's just kind of money pouring into them, and obviously they have a job. They have to do stuff and everything, but same thing with like these big mega churches. It's like, so like our pastors do their own research, and so if they're going to speak on a subject or verses in the Bible or what have you, they put all that together themselves. If we have a series, like we just got out of the Roman series that we had a couple months back, mm-hmm. and then I'm trying to think of what the last ones are, but anyhow, they do all that themselves. That's all their own research. These big mega churches, those guys don't do that, right? They have people that figure all that stuff out for them. They write everything down for them. And the only thing that they do need is they need a good basis in biblical theology to be able to talk about it properly, because you can't get up there. The only thing that I'd say, and I've seen this in some big churches and some big churches in our area. I went to it 2 different times, and I was really disappointed in how the teachings were. One of them I remember specifically going to, and the guy got up on stage and he sits down on a chair and he brings another guy out and they just tell stories. And there was not one time, man, that they said a Bible verse or anything. And I was like, what kind of church is this? This doesn't even make any sense. And that happened to be one of the bigger churches in the valley here. So just so everybody knows, and I think we said this in the very opening, a mega church is considered a church that has anywhere over 5,000 people up to 10,000. Now, it's still a mega church over 10,000, but now they're calling it a giga church if it has over 10,000 people.
Giga.
And there are giga church. Yeah. And there are tons of giga churches in the United States. The largest church by numbers that anybody can get, it's called Gateway Church in South Lake, Texas.
There's a lot of churches in Texas, mega churches. Joel Osteen's there. TD. What was his name?
Yeah, Joel Osteen is like the 5th or 6th largest in the country, and he's got 45,000 people at his church.
TD Jakes. TD Jakes is another evangelist. He's out of Texas as well.
Yeah, a lot of them, because Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, obviously the Bible Belt. What's funny is...
And guess who else is? Copeland's from Texas.
Copeland
is in Texas too.
Yeah, in the top 10, we have one of the churches here. It's a mega church, and what's weird about it, and that's one of the ones that I went to, is they have, and I don't quote me on the amount of campuses they have, and that's what they call them. They call them a campus, like a college. They're so big, right? And they've got, say, like 8 around the valley or something like that. So the one that I went to, I'm sitting down, and this, I'm assuming a pastor or whatever, gets up on stage, and the place is huge. I mean, there's a ton of people. Now, I don't know, this church, they say the largest one supposedly has 35,000 members, but I don't know if that's all the churches combined, because there's no way that many people fit in one of those congregations. Plus, they have multiple services and everything, so I'm pretty sure they're adding those numbers together from all the campuses.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting there,
Yeah.
and the guy gets up on stage, and he was like, "Yeah, we're going to go over this and this and that. We appreciate you guys coming." And then he walks off stage, the lights dim, and then this giant, I mean, it's a giant screen. It's like the size of a movie theater, if not bigger. And that pops on, and you see an audience. And this was my first time in this church, and I'm like, this is weird. Why are they like showing us video of us, like of the audience? They weren't showing us. They were showing the main campus. And then that was the preacher that was preaching. So you've got 8, 10, 12 churches, whatever it is in the valley, and they're just showing a video of the actual pastor in one of the main church or main campus that is doing the preaching. So think about this for a minute, man. Think about this. How much would each preacher have to make? Let's just make it a really even number, $100,000 a year, right? 8 churches, that's $800,000 a year they would have to pay preachers if they had 8 campuses and eight pastors preaching at each one. Now you've got one pastor. It's being broadcast to 8 different churches. He's probably making more than $100,000 now, but they don't have to pay him $800,000, right? So they're making a lot more money. I mean, it's crazy when you start thinking about how technology and things like that have changed things, because, stuff is a lot different than when I was a kid. Well, I know it's a lot different for you too.
Oh, it is. But yeah, we went to Catholic church, and so the
kneel, sit, stand, kneel, sit, stand.
Yeah, my knees are bad because of that now. But like
that's not the only reason.
I was an altar boy. Shut up. Anyway, but we knew the priest because he baptized me, he did my first communion, old timer. Yeah. He was there. He buried my mom. So, it was we knew him. He was real nice guy, big old white guy that spoke perfect Spanish. Great priest. And I can't say anything bad about him because, he never touched me inappropriately, right?
You wish.
I wore hoochie shorts and never had worked, but
it never worked.
Never worked. But anyway, I was like the little devil tempting him. But here's the thing, and I get it. Because what's so funny, Jay, is that I went to a church just like that, where you have someone that comes in and is talking about, hey guys, this is what's going on this week at our church here in
right.
in Santan or here in Queen Creek, blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be cool, it's real, it's a little bit smaller, there's but here's the thing, you walk in and they have and some of the things are good. They had like a little Goodwill where they sold stuff to help the community. They had a coffee shop, things like that.
Yeah,
you go in there, and then you have the church kind of big, but not big. And then you had these people talking. You had live band jamming out, right? Where it was good. Yeah. Everybody was singing. It was good. And then they all disappeared, right? And then here comes the pastor walking out with his little stand and puts it down and thinking, but it's on the screen, right? And I'm like,
yeah,
is there more messages? And then he's coming out. Nah, it's the same dude for every campus. And I'm thinking, this is really not personal. You know what I mean? I can just stay at home. I can stay at home and watch this on my phone.
Exactly.
And I'm like, this is just doesn't feel right. So those to me is you're looking for profitability. I get it. You want the numbers, but there's nothing wrong with a small church. There's nothing wrong with, it just to me doesn't seem like there's connection. And going back to Copeland. Copeland lives in a $7 billion mansion, right? $7 billion. He pays no tax. He pays zero tax. You know why? You know why he pays zero tax? Because the house is listed as a clergy residence.
Right. It's owned by the church, basically.
Well, yeah, it's a clergy residence. So, and what made me realize there was this one guy also, and I don't know if it was in Georgia, I don't know where it was. He bought a mansion. So this guy got caught because he was the pastor, and he's ripping people off. This guy's driving around in a Mercedes, right? He's buying these clothes. He's going Las Vegas trying to save hookers. He's just doing all kinds of things. And the congregation said, "Dude, what's going on? You're and they finally, and then he buys this mansion. They're like, okay, what's it?" The guy's in court, and he's all, "Oh, that mansion is for we were going to feed homeless people. There's going to be shelter." I'm like, bruh, stop. It's not going to be, that's where you hid the ballots for Biden. Why are you lying? In Georgia. I'm just kidding. But
Yeah.
but see, these are the things that, unfortunately, I think that, and I mean this in a sincerest of ways. I think, again, and I like the separation of church and state, but I think that churches, the bad ones, the fake ones, the ones that are taking advantage of people, I think those need to be looked at a little bit more and scrutinized a little bit more. Like, okay, that's a clergy residence. Well, a clergy residence, you maybe need a $50,000 house. You don't need a $7 billion mansion. I mean,
Right.
bro, you are frail. You're like 80 years old and you're about to break if you fall down. You don't need a mansion. It's
Right.
too big for you. But
And usually that it's not in a gated golf community somewhere, right? It's usually right next to the church, that kind of
no,
thing.
his is like off by it faces the ocean or something. It's like out.
Yeah,
It's some beautiful area, and you're like,
of course it is.
I'm like, bro, and they own all that. It's just, to me, it's just ridiculous. And so it's on 24 acres, and of course there's a private airport there because he has that jet that he bought from Tyler Perry, right? And that home, like, how does that make sense? And I spoke incorrectly. His net worth is not 300 billion. It's million. It's 760 million net worth.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, billion's a lot of money.
Yeah, 760
That's still
million.
a lot of money, though.
It's still a lot of money
for a pastor.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's still a lot of money. But yeah, that's what he's worth, and that's a lot. And 760 million, man. I was like, give me a break. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that they should go. Why the IRS coming bugging us poor folk, all these blue collar workers? Go bug these guys. Go check up on Copeland over there. You know what I mean? Start looking at his purchases.
Yeah, what the heck is he doing? Yeah,
Yeah,
you would
bro.
think they would.
I'm gonna go into evangelism, bro. I'm gonna something. I clearly can't do the wrong business. You know what I mean?
my only thing for those guys is, like, sin, the way it's looked at in the Bible. Sin is sin, kind of.
Mhm.
If you're committing it. So I heard this example, and I thought it was really great about. And I don't want to get too much off topic, but this plays into what we're talking about with these evangelists or owners of they're basically owners of a church. So
Owners of a flock.
That's what they're. Owners of a flock, yeah. So the way sin is looked at, through as far as biblical context is, imagine you're a basketball player, right? And your coach gives you the instructions of what you need to do and everything. And you're going to do free throws and all this, and you're going to practice as hard as you can. Are you going to make every basket? Absolutely not,
Mm-mm.
right? So that's just like,
unless you're Caitlin Clark.
Dang.
Sorry, she's making every one. So,
but that's the same thing with Christians and being a sinner. You're gonna practice your religion. You're gonna read your Bible. You're gonna go to church as much as you can, but you're gonna miss a shot or two. And that's because we're not perfect. We're going to sin once in a while, right? Now, if you go to the court and you see the coach and you're like, yeah, I don't really care about practicing today, and you're just sloppy and doing that, that's a whole different type of sin, right? That's purposeful sinning versus sin that just happens on its own because, we're men and we fail.
Right.
So that's the way that I really see these, whatever you want to call them, pastors, evangelists,
demons.
That's the way heathens. It's the way. What did you say?
Heathens.
Oh yeah. So that is the way that I really see those guys, is that they are, man, they're purposely missing free throws, right? They're going above and beyond and sinning. They're not just making mistakes. They're purposeful. Like you said earlier, taking money from people, taking money from the church. And here's the thing. So you get this guy, he buys Tyler Perry's Learjet or whatever kind of jet it was.
Learjet.
Pretty sure it was probably a Learjet.
Mm-hmm.
And
wasn't a Cessna.
What is he? Yeah, it wasn't a Cessna. It wasn't a single engine prop, nothing like that.
Dude.
No parachutes in the back,
No.
So what is he doing with that? Well, I guarantee you he's traveling all around. And if he said, well, I can reach more people this way, okay, I could kind of get it if you had all of your congregation and people that you could try. And like our church did, our pastors had to fly on Southwest or whatever it was and went to South America, right? We don't have a jet or anything like that. They paid for plane tickets. The church had to pay for all that stuff. And we get them down there, and they're working the whole time they're there.
Right.
If you have that kind of means, wouldn't you think that you would be at a different state every day preaching to people and doing stuff? But I guarantee you that's not what that's being used for. So those tools, right? You can buy the most expensive tool because church stuff is really expensive. A lot of things that are geared towards church. When you go, I mean, when I know from being a musician and lighting and recording equipment and you know, PA equipment, that stuff's expensive, man. And it's very proprietary stuff. So you have to buy specific things.
But here's the thing, like our church, they give us a lot of stuff, like books and things to, you know, like a lot. I mean, I know that's not free to print.
Study
I know that's
guides.
not free. Yeah. I mean,
No,
it
that's-
costs
and
them
that's-
money. And they're
That's right.
And like it's even in the good book, right, where you have to give tidings, right? You have to help, and because it's not, you know, things cost nowadays. You can't just, you know, you can't expect. Now, is there a lot of volunteering going on? Absolutely, as it should be, because you can't pay for everything, right? And we don't need another Jim Jones action happening going on, right? With, you know, and all these people drinking punch and then be gone. So we don't want crazy people like that. So,
Right.
But you know what's funny? Like if you go, you have to upload the video here, but find this video of Kenneth Copeland being confronted by a reporter of the local news, and bro, he looks like the demon.
You said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but principalities and powers.
Like you were saying, though, the churches invest in their community, right? They invest in their congregation. They're doing for you. Now, churches that don't do that, you know, but they're you know, hey guys, we have direct deposit if you guys want to just write your account number here. We'll take care of the rest. And like they'll do everything possible to make it easy for you to give money, but they don't in return give nothing. Right? They give you false hope, you know, like, oh, you know, you're going to give money, then you're going to get blessed, and you're going to start walking straight. Your back's all aligned. You know, everything's good.
Yeah.
You know, they get false hope, man. That's not what church is about, right?
Yeah, like Benny Hinn, you know, I mean, that guy, they caught him. Yeah, they caught him like he had like an earpiece in, and they caught the radio transmissions. They would, oh man, those people. See, again, that goes back to my little analogy of the whole basketball thing, right? Pastors, preachers, whatever,
evangelists,
leaders of any church organization, they're not perfect. Newsflash: the Pope is not perfect. All right, the guy has sinful thoughts. He does. And
that guy's the worst of all popes, bro. Don't even get me started.
Well, especially especially the new
pope,
this pope, you know. Especially, yeah, man. But these guys are doing wrong, you know, by God, and if you're not religious and you don't believe in God,
and you came from a monkey, that's cool. No. They came from a monkey, bro. Don't feel bad for them.
But even if you don't believe in God, we know right from wrong. That's a, you know, inherent.
That's a moral standard.
It's a moral standard. Yeah. Wow. And you know these guys are doing wrong.
Yeah.
That they're, you know, they're.
But people are helping. Still. But Jimmy Swaggart, they're still giving money to him, even though he you know. But you know what's so funny about that? And I say funny in a sarcastic way. It's sad, really. They'll get that they're when they get caught, like Jimmy Swaggart did. He'll use that to get more followers. He'll break down like, I'm human just like the rest of you. I've fallen to sin. And, you know, they play into it. And here comes a little wave of donations like, oh, my God, he's human. Like, look, I hate to do spoiler alerts, but these evangelists, these preachers, these pastors, they're humans like the rest of us. They're all sinful.
Yeah, they are.
They're no greater than you. All they do is invest a little time and maybe studying more than we do. But other than that, they don't fall for like they're something beyond, you know, and that's the thing, you know, if you want, don't believe me or Jay. There's one book that'll clear it up for you, and
That's right.
I'm not gonna give the name of that book because it's top secret. No one knows about it. But but you find it, you're gonna find a lot of answers to that. So I don't know.
Well,
go ahead.
I was gonna put out here or read the biblical deal on tithing. So Proverbs 3:9, it says to honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. So Luke 6:38 says, give and it will be given to you. A good measure pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. So there's other places like in I'd have to find about like Leviticus and a couple other places in the Bible that specify a tenth of what your gross earnings are, and that's what a lot of people have always used. There's really not if you read New Testament biblical information, there's not a specific amount that God's asking from you, or that we should give to the church, or tithing in general. See, here's the thing: is people don't understand tithing can be. Say you know of a family, right? And you're like, I don't feel like giving to the church this week, but I have this family at work that their house caught on fire, let's say, and they lost a bunch of stuff. And you say, you know what? I'm going to give to them to help them out. And you tell them I'm giving this because God told me to give this to you. And or I'm doing it out of my heart because God would want me to do this for you. That is a tithe, right? So we are supposed to, from our hearts, give back to God in whatever form that we feel fit. Now, most people, because they go to church, give money to the church because us as humans, again, we go back to the whole sin thing. We're not good at deciding a lot of this stuff, Obviously, Jimmy Swaggart said, well, I'm going to tithe to this hooker over here.
Clearly.
And that
he
clearly,
was giving
that was
10%.
Yeah. And that was a bad decision on his part, right? So when you give to the church makes kind of that decision for you and uses that money, hopefully godly and ethically and everything, to further God's message and everything out there. So that's kind of where all that comes from. And I know sometimes people they get confused about that. They're like, well, how much should I give? Like, when I'm at church, I feel awkward. Do I give $1? Do I give $10? What do I give? Well, what are you called to give? That's the thing, is like.
But here's the thing that people should consider, Jay. If you're okay going to before church, if you're okay to go to before church, go grab yourself a little Starbucks, a little Starbuckies, right? Or after church, go get you a little Starbuckies. And that Starbucks is going to cost you already $7. So you're telling me that you're okay to give $7 to a Starbucks, but you can't give $7 to the church, and you have to question that. We're so quick to go over there and get a $15 car wash, right? But again, we're offended by giving money to the church, and we're quick to give $1 or $2 to homeless people, but we're not giving back to what Christ has asked us to give. But you know what? Another crazy thing is, I say it's crazy because I don't know these things until you start talking about them. But like in James, somewhere in James, I'll have to find it. But it talks about what pure religion is, and pure religion is in this verse in the Bible talks about to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction. So it's basically telling us, hey, fatherless children, orphans or widows, help them, financially, physically, spiritually, however you can. That's what the Bible says that pure religion is, to God, undefiled before God is that, to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction. So that's important. People don't understand these things, and people always talk about religion. You can't follow religion. That's not that's not what we were intended to. God didn't come, or Jesus didn't come over here and say, look, I'm going to pray this thing called Christianity. I want a church built and you guys are going to follow. And then you just can't do that. We as humans, like always, and I'm going to blame this on Eve, right? Because Eve's the one that took the fruit. So it's Eve's fault. But as humans, we have this thing where we want to be different, right? We have this book that tells us, I mean, the book instructed Noah how to build a ship, for Christ's sake, and we have this book that's telling us how to get saved and stuff. But people want to take it and translate it into their own words, and then before you know, you got Pentecostals, you got Jehovah's Witnesses, you got all kind Mormons, you got you got every type of religion out there when it's only one book, book. I mean, there's many books in the one book, but and then people, of course, are gonna start getting into the whole thing, like, well, there was more books, and like, I get it. So, some of them are very repetitive. It was the same thing over and over again, So it's just, I don't know. I know I'm getting more into this than I should. And I get a little overworked when I start talking about this, because to me, I feel like America has lost common sense. And not only common sense, we clearly, as a nation, have lost religion, any kind of foundation of religion, in society today. And I think this is where this came from, talking about evangelists, is that, do you ever hear evangelists talking about uniting people? Do you ever hear them talking about,
not at all.
Even in our church, when we get talking about politics, we don't get divided about it. We talk about how, what we should expect, and I think there was a time that even said, hey, if there's someone in there that isn't in believe what we believe, let's at least pray for them, and I'm like, I saw that, like, I'm like, wait a minute, we don't talk crap. That's what I'm used to doing. Now you're telling me I got to pray for these people, so like it opens up different things and different meaning to you. Absolutely. When you have the right message from the right church, it's very different than when you go to these mega churches, or these that tell you just crazy stuff that you want to hear because they want your money. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel that society, listeners out there, there's a book. It's a top secret book. I'm not going to tell you the name of it because it's top secret, but find this book and read it. It's going to help you. It really is. I think it's helped Jay and me. I know it's helped my kids. So it's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And we might get somebody in the comments or is thinking in their head, thinking, well, I know people that call themselves Christian or what have you that are not good people. And I would agree with that. Absolutely. In fact, again, that goes back to my analogy with the basketball, like a broken record on it. I find that the hypocrites in Christianity are some of the worst people that there are. And we're all hypocrites to God, right? Or to good. Again, if you're not religious, we're all hypocrites to good because we know better. We're adults, and unless you're just a complete moron, you know wrong from right. Yeah. And we know to not do certain things, and yet, here we are doing bad things. And you're right, Joe. You brought up something about, the United States has taken God out of everything. And I heard this deal, and it was a real quick snippet, and I haven't had time to like research and find where it came from and everything. But they were talking about when the atom bomb was dropped, right? And at that point, there was a turning point in the United States. Now, you think about it, how long ago that was, right? That was at the end of World War II. Correct. And all of a sudden, we went from a God-fearing nation to we are God, because we're now scientific, because we can split the atom and all this kind of stuff. And so we're better than God. And we've been on that push. And if you look at all the kids that are having issues with, we just did a couple episodes ago here on, because it was Pride Month, on transgenderism and some of these things like that. Every single one of them is a non-believer, all of them. Right. So, and they have some of the highest cases of, mental instability and things, they're depressed and all these other kind of things. There's a reason for this. We're taking the spiritual component out of the United States. What our nation was really founded on is the freedom to believe or not believe. And the thing was we raised our kids and we raised communities based around a communal ideal, right? All the elders, the people, the adults in the community would help raise the kids in the community, and that came along with the church and the schools. Well, now the schools have been completely taken away from the parents. I mean, you have the whole thing where they're fighting against parents, where they don't want the parents to have anything to do with the education portion. The schools are 100% in charge of that. We don't want your kids going to church because that's terrible. Obviously it teaches horrible values to them, because you won't be able to twist kids' minds into doing crazy stuff. So yeah, it's really a sad thing to see, so many people walk away from spirituality. And when I say that, it is definitely believing in, a greater good, a higher power. And in our case, Jesus is our savior. So
hallelujah, brother.
Hallelujah.
So at the end of this show, guys, we're going to put our Venmo up there. Please send us money. We'll forgive all your sins. Minimum $20.
We'll pray for you.
And we will pray for you. And clearly you'll be going to heaven. You'll be right there with us. So 20 is the minimum. That's 10% of everybody. So.
And if you don't,
you're going to hell.
If you don't, you know where you're going.
You know where you're going. And let me tell you, if you think it's hot where it's at right now, it gets worse.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, guys.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for joining us again. Check us out on all of our social media channels at Linktree/Joe and Jay Outspoken. We're here every Tuesday doing something different. All right. Well, everybody, have a great week. And remember, take care of one another.
And do better, be better.
And as always, God bless America.
We'll see you.
See you next Tuesday.